Norman Finkelstein tweeted out Ben Shapiro's final solution. This is true. Ben Shapiro wrote this. So there's a link right here to this article he wrote, I think back in 2013, or I don't know when, maybe 2015. So I did go and read it. And he does say what Norman Finkelstein says he says. And here's what Norman Finkelstein says he said. He said, this is what Ben Shapiro said. If you believe that the Jewish state has a right to exist, then you must allow Israel to transfer the Palestinians and the Israeli Arabs from Judea, Samaria, Gaza, and Israel proper. It's an ugly solution, but it's the only solution. Oh, he said that in 2003. He then went on to say, if Israelis don't openly avow this goal, it's because they are afraid that if they expel the Arabs, they will be called Nazis. Turns out a legit fear. Turns out it seems that Israelis are no longer afraid, and they're no longer afraid of that. Indeed, senior Israeli officials have called for wiping out Amalek and making Gaza uninhabitable. Is it okay, Mr. Shapiro, to now call them Nazis? That's real. That he really did write that. He really did say that. And it's kind of a twist. Here's Ben Shapiro's final solution. That's kind of a great turn of phrase by Norman Finkelstein. And I wonder what his nationality is, or his ethnicity. Anyway, let me bring in Russ and Keaton from Due Dissidence. What do you make of it? Go ahead.
It's amazing to see them using words like transfer, because that's a very charged word in Jewish history, because that was the word that the Nazis would use.
Oh, really?
When they would uproot Jews from the ghettos and move them to the concentration camps, they were being transferred. So that's pretty amazing that he would use that word to describe what he's talking about, and he acknowledges they're afraid they'll be called Nazis. Well, okay, well, you got that one right. Maybe they be called Nazis because they're doing what the Nazis did. I mean, if the kippah fits, well then, if you're going to do exactly what the Nazis did,
boy, I went back to
you're going to get called Nazis.
I went back to the buffet 18 times and I got called Chris Christie. How could that happen? I was always afraid of that, and son of a bitch, it started happening.
I was talking to someone last night. I won't say who. They were Jewish, as am I.
Was it Bill Maher? Was it Bill Maher?
No, it was not Bill Maher, and it wasn't Kit Cabello, although I did talk to Kit last night. It wasn't him. No, I was talking to someone last night, and they were talking about, because they were a psychology major in school, and they said one of the things that they studied in psychology was this phenomenon where if people feel like they are viewed a certain way, they will act in ways that make them viewed that way. And he brought this up with regards to Jews. Jews see themselves as chosen people who have been persecuted throughout their history, and that everybody is just out to get them. And that has led the Jewish state, certainly, to act in a way that turns the world on them, right? And this is a perfect example of that. Like the fact that Shapiro can write that with no self-awareness whatsoever, to go as far as Russell just said, to actually use a charged word like transfer. This is exactly that psychological thing where when you feel as if the world is out to get you, you will act in a way that turns the world into your opposition. And that's what Israel has done here. They have really manifested that. I mean, maybe that sounds a little Marianne Williamson for people, but it's true. It's true.
I think you're referring to the Stanford prison experiment.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it really is wild. It really is wild how he could say a thing like that and not even contemplate the irony that's just staring him right in the face.
Well, I think that's also because a lot of our behavior is defined by the feedback we get. And if you are simply just allowed to do whatever you want for 75 years without any pushback, not only without any pushback, but being celebrated while committing these atrocities as heroic defenders of civilization, you're just going to become that arrogant and blind because you're not getting any pushback. You put somebody where our sense of reality and identity is so dependent on interaction. You put somebody in a sensory deprivation tank for a few days, their personality completely breaks down.
But their rationale for this, like when they do this, their rationale for any opposition is, well, the world just hates us. Everybody just hates us. Right.
Sure.
So, don't be afraid. I know a lot of Israelis are going to be afraid to embrace this final solution because they're afraid they're going to be called Nazis. Well, if they're called Nazis, it's just because the world is out to get us. Right. That's the only possible explanation. And because they feel that way, what happens? They act in a way that turns the world against them. And now the world is out to get you.
You could only go that far with no pushback for 75 years.
Well, yeah.
Because nobody ever told you to shut up. Nobody ever told you you're going to. I just saw, I was scrolling through, I think it's Showtime. Like they just dropped this. I was making jokes on our show about when I was growing up, they had a woman called Golda. They did a whole mini series about Golda Meir. This is on, I think, Showtime now. It's just called Golda. It's a different movie now with Helen Moran playing Golda Meir. I wonder why they dropped that just now.
Oh, I didn't know they did that. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I remember that. Wow, I'm old enough to remember that.
Oh, you remember that?
Yes, yeah. I didn't know what any of it meant. I just like when I would see the commercials for Evita. I didn't know. I didn't. Don't
and
cry.
That was around the same time.
Don't cry for me, Argentina. I didn't know what that was. I just knew that was a musical. Seemed like it was in Chicago for 4 years. They just constant commercials for that musical. Anyway, and then I went and saw Tony Quinn as what's the? I'll think of it.
Hang on, was on Broadway?
No, he toured with a musical. What was it called? It was.
Oh, you're talking about Zorba the Greek?
Zorba the Greek. That was it. And Anthony Quinn as Zorba.
Right.
I actually went to that. I don't know how that happened that I got tickets. How the hell?
First I've ever heard of this.
How the hell did I end up? Did I go to see that or did I dream myself?
You never heard of Zorba the Greek?
That
was a big show back then.
I went. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, in New York too, they were playing the constant Evita commercials all the time. And wasn't Yul Brynner doing like The King and I back then?
Oh yeah,
too?
I saw The King and I.
Yeah.
So now Zorba the Greek. What years was that? Because I think I went to see it. Here's why. Because my college roommate was dating a Greek, a woman, Greek girl, and her. I don't know why I'm struggling with the terms. What's the a Greekian?
Are you still allowed to say that? Greek girl?
Aggression? Is that how they say it?
A Grecian formula 41. Yeah. But anyway, that's what happened. They got tickets because in my neighborhood anyway, Greeks owned a lot of the restaurants, like a lot of the diners and things. The Greeks and then Armenians. And they owned a lot of the and so he owned a diner, and they were very into being Greeks, right? You'd go to their house, they had Greek soap and Greek this and Greek that, and they were very into being Greek, which was a different experience for me. And that's how I ended up going to see Zorba the Greek, because they got tickets. That's why I went. Come see us do a live stand-up show. We'll be in Venice, California, Palmdale, California, Omaha, Des Moines, Milwaukee, Lansing, Bend, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Boston, Massachusetts, and we're going to Europe. Do you live in Europe? We're going to be there. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.